So guys, this is the first step that we start teaching recall with. We have a short leash on the dog. This is only 4 feet. You can use whatever length you want. And we just have a prong collar on her. And the way that we start to teach recall is we call the dog, Tilly here. And we use leash pressure. And then, excuse my camera work, good girl, guide her into a sit. So she did that by default because of that leash pressure. Good girl, break. And then we break them out of that position. And we do this over and over and over again. Tilly here, and she's following my body, and we're using the leash, gentle leash pressure up, good girl, and she gets her reward once she's in that sit position. Break. She got up a little early there, but that's okay because we're just learning. So we do this over and over and over again, and remember that it's leash pressure and body pressure that's guiding the dog to us. And if she was excited about food, we'd be paying her with food, but she doesn't really care about food at the moment, so we're just giving her lovies for her reward. Tilly here. Get her into that SIT. Good girl. The reason I'm not saying sit is because this is a totally different command. I want her to come to me and then sit down, be in a stationary position. So this is step 1 with recall. And if you have a dog that's a little more stubborn, you can start giving little leash pops. Tilly here, quick little leash pop, back up a little bit, get her into that SIT. Oh, good girl, good job. So that's step 1 for recall, guys. After you've practiced your recall a little bit doing that and your dog is starting to respond, you can start to add the distractions. And the distraction for Tilly is opening the door because she loves to go out and play in the yard. Break. Tilly here. Good girl. Get her into that SIT. Gentle leash pressure up. Good girl. Good job. Break. She knows not to rush the door, but it's a good test. Tilly here. Good job. So she's doing it with minimal leash pressure. Good girl. Sit. Good job. So a lot of times when dogs get to that point, we can start adding remote collar pressure. If you're not using a remote collar, then you want to proof this with the prong collar in very, very high distractions to get a reliable recall. So usually we do off-leash stuff with the remote, and we do this leash pressure inside, and then we move outside a little bit. So the next step is going to be going outside with her and doing the exact same thing in higher distractions. So practice this with your dog, guys. Don't forget to don't skip the steps, and make sure that you put in the reps. We've done this hundreds of times, so she's kind of a pro. Good girl. I've been practicing outside for a bit. Guys, this takes longer than just one day. We did a ton of inside work before we moved outside. And she still has a short leash on, so we'll move to a long leash next, but this is the next step. So guiding your dog while they're outside. Tilly here. Good girl. Get her into that SIT still. We still want that. Gentle leash pressure up. Being a little bit firmer because we're outside. Good. Good job. Yes. Break. Come on. Woohoo. Woohoo. Spin around. Tilly here. Good girl. Swung around me there a little bit using leash pressure still. Get that SIT. Good. Good, good, good. Yeah. Break. So nice out now. Tilly here. Good. So she's still not, her sit is not perfect at the end, especially when we're outside, but it's a work in progress. So we create that every single time. So if we forget to ask them to sit, then dogs tend to just run right past us when we recall them. And the reason we want them to sit is because if we're done playing at the park and it's time to leash them back up, once you get that off-leash freedom, then they're stationary and we can simply just clip the leash. She is definitely not there yet, but we're getting there. Tilly here. So this right here, making sure she gets into a sit every time I ask her. Good girl. Let's go. Gonna work in the shade. It's hot. Tilly here. Good. And she's a little bit slower, so I give her an opportunity. Break. I give her an opportunity to sit because she does sit a little bit slower. So make sure you're mindful of your dog. If they're capable of doing it quickly, then hold them accountable for that. Tilly here. Leash pressure. Good girl. Good. And I back up because it creates more distance. Let's go. You want to create more distance when you're working with your dog because if you're training in your home, usually You got some tight spaces to work in. Tilly here. So eventually we'll get to the point where I'm stationary and calling her to me. Because if we're always backing up, good job. If we're always backing up, dogs learn in pictures. So if all of a sudden you stop backing up and your dog starts having trouble, just go back to the basics. Teach her to come to you when you're stationary. So if I back up a little bit, so she's in follow mode now, but if I'm stationary and I call her, Tilly here, she still turns around and comes towards me, but I have that leash on. Good girl, good job. Don't preemptively take the leash off, guys. Always keep the leash on when you're learning. It takes a while to get to that point.